Anna-Marie Verse now down in third, of course, coming back from that broken hand. Ceylin Alvarado, Sara Casasola, Laura Verdonschot, Marion Norbert Riverola, Manon Bakker, Denise Betsema, and Zoe Baxter are your top 10, but 17 minutes and 57 seconds separating them in the general classification. The X2 Barkhammer's Trophy, the only series that is calculated on a cumulative time rather than points. Let's take you through your front row of the grid. Manon Bakker on the left had a good day out in Bar, as did Fem Van Empel, the winner here last year. She's great in the sand. One rider who we're excited to see today, but how is she feeling after a bit of a break? It's just not been going her way so far this season, is Laura Verdonschot. Puk Pedersen was following Puk's course ride preview that she put together yesterday. Definitely a rider, I think, that's wanting to improve in the sand. Lucinda Brandt here in the Dutch Champions jersey. Alongside her, Inge van der Heide, the podium ninja, as we call her. What can Inge van der Heide to do today? Sannekamp in her final races as a pro. The Belgian champ gets a front row start, as does the young rider from the Charles Liégeois Roastery team in Julie Brouwer. She's really improving. The young rider, we'll see what she can do today. Behind them, Denise Betsema on row 2 with Kiona Krabbe, Francesca Baroni, Lizzie Gonzalez, Imogen Wolf, Perrine Clazel, Electa Galazon, Kristen Bilodeau. We're nearly ready for the off here at the X2 Barkhammer's Trophy round 6 at the Duinencross here in Koksijde. The riders are under orders, getting ready for the start. Row 3, Sarah Callistrop, Bridget Wilson, Cassidy Hickey, Hope Inglis. Row 4, Anna Monroe, Marta Troyan, the likes of Hannah McClory, Siobhan Kelly, Stephanie Paul, Adeline Hamilton, and Katja Verkerk on the next row back from them. Welcome aboard. Martin McDonald and Helen Wyman with you to take you through today's race action. There's your general classification. So 2 rounds to go after this, and a considerable advantage for Lucinda Brandt. 9 minutes and 44 seconds to the second place of Fem Van Empel. Watch the lights. We are under orders. What can Sannekamp do in this one today? Let's get racing in Koksijde. That start, all important here in the sand. Inge van der Heide getting a great start straight down the centre in the green, white and red colours there of Crane and Corendon. Julie Brouwer's on the right from Charles Liégeois Roastery. Puk Pedersen trying to find a way through. Fem Van Empel, it looks like though he's going to get the whole shot through the first corner. The world champ leads in. And Helen, we go from this whole shot and then we go through this section and then into quite a steep run-up for the first stand section.
It's a really tough run-up, and it's so important to get a good start into there, because it's not necessarily for the climb, it's actually for the descent. You have to remount at the top, and you have to go onto your bike going downhill, which is unbelievably hard in sand. And so if you're the 5th, 6th, 7th rider, you have to basically stop and wait for those riders to get going before you have a chance, or you have to run down, and then you're not on the right place at the bottom of the hill, where you then hit the road and carry on. It's so important as they come into this sand section now.
So Inge van der Heide leads in, and it's just, I was watching Puk's preview, and it's impossible to ride this section.
Oh, yeah, it really is impossible. It's super steep, it's very long, and you can see how hard it is running. The riders have to get their feet into the footholds that exist already, and that's the only way that you can actually get any purchase to power up to go up the climb. And so even if you've got little legs, it's much harder to find those footholds. If you've got long legs, they might not be in the right place. And then this is the section we said where you have to remount downhill in the sand, get your feet in, ready to go around that corner, and then accelerate again on the road.
That's the depth of the sand here. We always talk about sand in the way your bike dances around underneath you. It's a bit like being a salsa dancer, because the bike is jumping around and your upper body's trying to stay and keep you going forward motion. So when you're trying to remount on the sand as well, the difficulty then goes up tenfold.
Yeah, you need momentum to remount, and in the sand you just don't have momentum, so it's really tough. You'll quite often see riders dab a foot as they're remounting in these kind of conditions, as we're seeing Van der Heide at the front here, who really wants to put the pressure on at this race. She loves this race. She's had some really good results here, podiums before, and I think she's going to try and light it up from the start like we've seen her do many times.
Bit of a gap just back from those back of that group there. We're just focusing in on Laura Verdonschot there. And Laura, it's fair to say, has not had the season that she would have wanted this year. Into this next June, and look at the power of Inge van der Heijden. Puk Pieterse also gets a gap. Lucinda Brand is off and running. Fem van Empel straight over the top. You can see the Belgian champ there in the black, yellow and red colours with the number 2. That shows, as we said, we don't call her the podium ninja for nothing. Inge van der Heijden, great start. Puk Pieterse, then Fem van Empel, and a considerable gap already here. Back to Sanne Kamp, then Lucinda Brand, Manon Bakker, Marta Troyen, Imogen Wolf. You've got Julie Brouwers, and then comes Laura Verdonschot. Quite significant. The length into that June that Inge managed to ride there.
That was really impressive. What was even more impressive was Fem van Empel. We're going to see her here. She comes off of the line, which in sand, there usually is only one line. She uses that hard pack section where the spectators cross and then cuts around and comes back in. And it's really impressive to be able to do that in the middle of a bike race, to think it in the first place, find a section you can overtake, because normally there's only one line that everybody's riding on. So Fem is clearly going for the win today.
Fem van Empel going after the title of Sand Queen, clearly, in this one. Early on, she won this race last year, 39 seconds ahead of Lucinda Brand and Ceylin Alvarado. Imogen Wolf here in the yellow of his Melissa bike, just in front of Julie Brouwers, has also got a strong start. Inge van der Heijden and Puk Pieterse really throwing down the challenge to everyone here. Fem van Empel is steadily in the background, just trying to get back on. Puk said herself on her preview video that I was watching that sand has probably not been her favoured surface to ride on, but was really had done a lot of work. She works a lot with her technical coaches, her backup team, her teammates as well, friends as well, that she also does her course rides with, and has started really well here. Fem van Empel moving up, then there's that gap now. Back to Lucinda Brand, who's got to try and get back in here if she can. Manon Bakker has just come over the top there of Sanne Kamp. Marta Troyen here in the blue of Phoenix de Koning, another rider who has got a phenomenal start. Good to see Marta back up here in at the front of the cross.
Yes, we watched that line from Bakker as she tries to jump on, but the lines just take you anywhere in sand, and it cut her right across Sanne Kamp's line. Sand is something so specialist. Sanne Kamp, Laura Verdonschot are probably the best sand riders in the women's peloton. Obviously, Kamp isn't where she used to be. And so when she was the best in the world, she was unbelievable in these kind of conditions. But she doesn't have the strength and the power to be at the front of the race anymore. But for Peters to go away and try to learn how to do sand, because she's so technically brilliant, it shouldn't be an issue for her. But it moves differently. Sand moves differently to mud, which moves differently to hard pack ground, which we all know. But I think as well, part of the sand is that lines change every single lap. As soon as somebody runs over the racing line, it changes what's going on. And you get super deep ruts on these sections that they're coming back to now that we're going to watch Peters come through. And these sections will stay the same. But if you fall out of that line for a millisecond, then it's almost impossible to regain the momentum in this deep sand, as we're seeing Van der Heijden have to jump off there because she doesn't have the momentum.
We talk about its way of riding the sand is almost surfing the sand. Sometimes in certain sections of sand, you hit that sweet spot in the sand and you're just surfing through the deep sand.
You have to hit it with speed, you have to hit the rut, and you have to pedal and maintain your momentum. As soon as you lose momentum, you have to jump off and jump back on again, as we saw Kamp there in the background. She just doesn't have enough speed to get her up that little mound, and she has to jump off and run. And because you lose speed so quickly in sand, you have to make that decision a lot quicker than you would in, say, mud or something else, where you think you might be able to ride out of it. In sand, you just can't.
Lucinda Brand just trying to close back up. Puk Pieterse takes the lead, as she did in Baal. Inge van der Heijden behind her. We're coming to the end of what it has been an incredibly busy Kerstperiode, the festive season of cyclocross. And there's a lot of tired legs out there as well, isn't there?
There really is, yeah. And everyone that I've spoken to that have done these races over Christmas have said they're actually a bit more draining than usual. And maybe it's because there are so many good riders at so many races and there are so many series races, whereas quite often over the Kerstperiode we've had some individual rounds of races and people can drop them off the calendar and get a bit of recovery. But every race has been important, and it makes it so tough for the riders, because not just physically but mentally as well, you've got to up your game if you're going for a series win.
Carving through the sand. You got a great close-up there of Puk Pieterse and Inge van der Heide through the sand. Back to Fem van Empel here, and this is what we talk about in the technique. And when you learn to ride sand, and when you get on top of the technique of riding in the sand. Look at Lucinda Brand there, just sprinting. Puk Pieterse is on a charge here on the first lap. It's the first lap of the Koksijde race, and Puk Pieterse means business today. Back to last year's winner, Fem van Empel. And even just that small gap we saw on that 2nd June, and how much difference it's made, even to somewhat of the technique there of Fem van Empel. It was only a fraction, it was a couple of seconds, wasn't it? Yeah, and then she made a mistake on that little, you drop down, it's quite a big descent, and then there's a tiny little rise before you drop down fully down to this section that we can see Peters on now, and Van Empel lost the line, and as soon as you lose that line, it's almost impossible to regain and get back into the racing line that you want to ride on. And so she was off straight away, ran up the little lump, was back on, and now she's back still in 3rd spot. If you weren't with us for Basel, if you didn't see Basel on New Year's Day, go back and watch it. We had the most thrilling finish between these two, Fem van Empel and Lucinda Brand. Puk Pieterse on to the road, looks back over the shoulder. The Phoenix de Koning rider at the end of lap 1 here in Koksijde is on an absolute charge. Inge van der Heide, that fast start that she put in, she wants to try and close this one back up to Puk Pieterse if she can. Puk hasn't finished lower than 5th so far this season. Multiple podiums, just 1 5th place throughout her program so far this winter. And then we have a gap back to Lucinda Brand and Fem van Empel. Brand just uses that road power to ride into the slipstream now of the world champion. But at the end of lap 1, 21 seconds already from Puk Pieterse to Fem van Empel and Lucinda Brand. Back to Sanakant there. Manon Bakker goes through just ahead of Marta Troyen, the Belgian rider, who is in good form ahead of the national championships to come. So good to see the Belgian up there ahead of Sanakant. And then Imogen Wolf, the young Brit, just on the back here of Julie Brouwers. So Brouwers goes through at 49, and this is Francesca Baroni of Proximus, and Italy goes through. And then you've got Denise Betzer and Laura Verdonschot.
Denise Betzma was a winner of this World Cup way back in 2018, 19, I think? 19, yeah. So, yeah. Even though you can be really good at this one year, it doesn't actually mean you're really good at it the next year. If you're a sand specialist, obviously your skills will go across. As for seeing Van der Heide now has made it onto the back of Puk Pieterse coming up that bank. Brand is looking strong to me today. We've seen her a lot in the races over this Christmas period, warming up into the race. She's always wearing leg warmers when other riders aren't necessarily. We know it's cold today. It was -1 when the riders got to the venue this morning. And she just seems to wind her way gradually into the race, and then we all know that she's got a devastating last lap and a half. So this is still they're still within contention at this point, even though it looks like a large gap between those front two and Brand.
And as you say, even 18 seconds on a course like this is not a significant advantage, because you hit one dune wrong, and and we've seen it historically. I mean, I go back to the early 2000s in commentary. You've ridden 13 editions of this. We've seen big gaps in the past just evaporate when you hit the dune wrong.
And the final lap of this race, now with the Niels Albert dune, which is a newer edition. It's probably only about 8 years in. We call it newer. That dune, you can lose or gain 3 or 4 spots on the final lap in that one section. It's incredible. And so a rider like Brand, we know is really good on the last lap. If she's not at the front of that race, she can come back, and we can see she's riding so strong right now in this sand section as she comes into that left-hand corner.
And this time, that was the position last lap where she didn't hit it, and Fem van Empel came round her, and you saw the power that she managed to overcome. Laura Verdonschot behind. We're seeing, just looking at the face of Laura Verdonschot at the moment, she said herself on her social media at the beginning of the Kerstperiode that she was taking a break. She needed, it wasn't just happening. It wasn't happening for her. It wasn't feeling right, and she needed to take a break to come back for a race that she loves here. So hopefully she can ride into the back end of the season and just find that form. Look at Lucinda Brandt's power through there.
Yeah, that section is a downhill section, and you can see they were pedaling like crazy through there, but you still have to pedal, even though it's a downhill section. So we're watching here how Inge van der Heijden just runs past Peters. Peters is really struggling to find those footholds that we were talking about, where you need to get your feet into those sections. Otherwise, if you put it in fresh sand, your feet just fall away, and so you've wasted power. So you need to go into those little footholds with your tiptoes. But Peters is wanting to go past Inge at this point. They go around this corner. We can't see this, but there's actually a bit of a drop that you drop in just there. It doesn't look quite as bad as it has been in previous years, but again, it's getting the right line. You've got to take that little drop in where your front wheel drops lower first, and that's quite sketchy in sand because you don't want to dig in the front wheel. As you said before, it's really, really important to keep your weight on the back wheel, and you kind of motorboat through. You're trying to keep that front wheel, the weight off of it, and the back wheel would drive you in the sand. And so when you do drop-offs like that, it's really, really tough to think about it. I mean, it's nothing like the drops in Zonhoven.
What I'm liking here, though, is Inge van der Heijden fighting. Puk Pedersen, we know the technique, we know the talent of Puk Pedersen. And for Inge van der Heijden, what's good today, you can see a different mindset from her in this opening lap and a half. It's like, I know I'm good here. I know I can challenge for this. She's got her elbows out. She's digging in, and that's what's good to see.
It's really good to see, and we've seen her really come on over the Christmas period, and we've seen her get some really good results again that we've expected of her that we didn't see at the beginning of the season. And yeah, I mean, when she's up there, and she was third in Mol, which is another sand race already this year at the beginning of the Kerstperiode. So I think she's really going for it today, and Peters is not able to get rid of her, so this does show that she's actually on really good form as well.
Puk Pedersen is gunning for her first win of the winter. There is still an awful lot of race to go here in Koksijde. Your duo of leaders are Puk Pedersen and Inge van der Heijden. Your chasers are the Dutch champion here, Lucinda Brand, in that red, white and blue kit ahead of the world champion, Fem van Empel. Balwaza Glowy Lions, as they are, and the Visma Lisa bike team are your two teams.
And that just shows how tricky getting on your bike on sand, even though it's downhill, so you should have momentum. And you can see how Van Empel just dabbed her foot a few times to try and give her that extra push that she needed to get going again. And it's so tough to look at the hill you're trying to go down, get your bike to go in a direction you need it to go in, and jump on at the same time. And yeah, these riders are showing that, yeah, this is actually really tricky.
And if you're curious to get a rider's eye view, all we were saying, we've always championed her since the beginning of her career. Check out Puk Pedersen's YouTube channel and her course ride from yesterday. When you see her in the lead now and you hear her talking through her lines and her ride the day before, and it almost seems now a really important part of her preparation. So if you want a rider's eye view, we always say check out Puk Pedersen's socials and her YouTube. Santa Camp there just coming to a bit of a halt. Julie Brouwer's behind. Julie's having another phenomenal day out in the yellow, white and blue there of the Charles Liégeois Roastery team.
She really is. And another good day we're seeing is from Manon Bakker right now, sitting in 4th spot. And we saw her in Bâle come in 5th. She's really picked up her form over the last week or so. And she didn't have, again, a rider that didn't have the greatest start to the season. And since Zonhoven, she's just been getting better and better and better. And she loves sand. She's really, really good in the mud, but she actually really enjoys these kind of races. So I think she'll thrive in the conditions today.
If you're just tuning in, welcome aboard. We are on lap 2 here of the X2L Barkammers Trophy race, the Soudal Ladies Trophy here from Koksijde. We're up on the North Sea coast of Belgium in West Flanders. This race for the men, first run in 1969. Inge van der Heide just caught herself up there. Roger de Vlaeminck, first edition for the women was 2003. It was won by Hanke Kupfernagel. And what a battle we are being treated to today, as we just see Fem van Empel just coming over the top there of Lucinda Brandt. Just the different lines that you can take there. Can Inge van der Heide here recover from that little mistake there? Just caught that brake lever on the inside.
Yeah, you're trying to cut as close the lines as you can. You're trying to make it as tight as possible to mean you don't have to ride as far you don't have to run as far in the sand, but it's still really, really, and look how tricky it is there at this section. Again, Van Empel's gone off that line. It's if you want to see a funny picture, you can see a massive crash I did there at the World Championships in 2012. And that shows you how steep it is. And as we see here, Van Empel she's kicked off that line that Brand is on. And as soon as you come off it, there isn't another line there. And she has to then bring herself back into the middle to get up.
We saw her just toe-macking, tripoding with that left foot out coming into that. So she already knew that she was out of the line that she wanted to be on. But that mistake on that dune for Inge van der Heide, you can see how costly it is here to Puk Pedersen. It's not huge. She can come back. I think Inge can just got to keep that focus, keep that mindset that we've seen so far, and try and get back in. They're onto the road. Puk Pedersen driving on here for Phoenix de Koning at the end of lap 2. It's going to be a 5-lap race here in Koksijde today. 18 minutes and 49 seconds of racing. So the laps are just over the 9-minute mark at the moment. Inge van der Heide going through it 11 seconds. Lucinda Brand driving on this long start-finish straight here. Just Lucinda Brand using that road power. But look at Fem van Empel just steadily pedaling back in here. Van Brand just takes a look back over the shoulder. 23 and 25 seconds respectively for these two. This is still catchable, you would say.
Yeah, they have lost 2 seconds to Peters over that lap, but I think the thing is, if you make one mistake, you can lose 5-10 seconds in this race. So, you know, they have made a couple of mistakes as we go round. Peters is also not that lap. She didn't really make any mistakes, did she? It was the lap before. So there's, you know, anything can happen in this race, and it is a really wearing course, and it requires a lot of power the whole way. You can't take any recovery at any point really in this race at all.
We're on to lap 3 of 5 here in Koksijde. Inge van der Heide still trying to come back. 11 seconds opened by Puk Pedersen to Inge van der Heide on lap 2. Van der Heide's just got to keep that focus and concentration. Just see Fem van Empel there just steadily just picking out those footholds as on the run up, the remount at the top.
It's really, really tricky on this descent if you don't have at least 1 foot in as well. And with the sand gets into your shoe cleats, which then mean that when you try and clip your feet in, it's really, really tricky. And particularly that section, that descent is really deep ruts, and you need to try and cut the corner so that you can turn to the right onto the road, and you've got to have 1 foot in, and sometimes you go down there without any feet in at all, and it's absolutely scary.
It is. Puk Pedersen is driving on at the front. 9 minutes 10, 9 minutes 22. The lap times on the opening 2 laps there for Puk Pedersen. Inge van der Heide went through the line at 11 seconds. And they took just to update you as well on the bonifications. So at the end of the lap 1, 15 seconds to Puk Pedersen, 10 to Inge van der Heide, and 5 to Fem van Empel. But in terms of the GC here in the season-long competition, Lucinda Brand going into today with such a considerable gap over Fem van Empel. Long shot of Puk Pedersen shouldering the bike on the run-up. Fem van Empel was 4th, Manon Bakker 5th. Marta Troyen of Belgium was 6th through the line. Sannekamp, Julie Brouwers, so a good collective group of Belgians who were in 6th to 8th place. Denise Betsema currently in 9th. Francesca Baroni, the Italian, in 10th. Then Laura Verdonsch got in 11th for Great Britain. Imogen Wolf is 12th. Kiona Krabbe is 13th. Lizzie Gonzalez of the USA is in 14th. Perrine Clausel, Electa Galazon Sarah Kallestrup of Denmark into the top 20. Great ride from the Dane today so far. Bloom Callis 18th, Hope Inglis is 19th for Great Britain. Cassidy Hickey currently in 20th position. So some good places in the top 20. We've got Louise McClory of Ireland is in 37th position. Thea Persson of Sweden in 44th. Siobhan Kelly of Canada currently 33rd.
Yeah, it's great to see so many international riders over the Christmas period. We regularly see people come over and stay for longer blocks. You know, they might come in just before and then stay all the way through. What are we going to see here? Oh, Brand almost sideways there as she goes through those ruts. She jumps from one rut across to the other rut, and Van Empel's right back onto her wheel.
Just a great long shot there. Just showed just how much time you can actually make up. Pop Petersen.
She's got a massive gap.
It's
from
building.
Now, I think Van der Heijden probably just, you know, she was holding on and holding on and holding on, made that one mistake and she's gone, and that's the end of your race, really, to stay with the likes of Peters.
Welcome back if you're rejoining us on the TV. A big welcome as well. You're tuning in today on Discovery Plus or Max, depending on your territory. And of course, Eurosport. And our leader is Pop Petersen, chased by this rider here, Inge van der Heijden, who's about to get some company from Lucinda Brandt and Fem van Empel. Pop Petersen's gap was 11 seconds through the line. It is growing steadily. Petersen looking for her first victory of the winter. The world XCO champion on the mountain bike. She was a stage winner and the best young rider in the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift in the summer as well. Pop Petersen, one of the most exciting and talented multidiscipline riders on the circuit at the moment. It doesn't matter what kind of bike it is. Pop Petersen can just switch with consummate ease between them. And I think what's impressed me so far this winter, Helen, is Pop's calmness in that win. Every single performance, she was like, hey, no, it's good. I'm happy. I'm building into the season. She hasn't put a huge amount of pressure on herself sort of publicly.
No, and I don't think she needs to, really. I mean, she is, like you say, mountain bike world champion, and so she's been to the Olympics this year. The training that you have to put in before the season in order to be good for the whole season, to qualify your place to the Olympics, to then race the Olympics, to then go into the cross season, that's a lot of racing, and you don't not much downtime. And so for her, I think it's like starting afresh, isn't it? And she's been riding really consistently. She doesn't quite have that full race distance power in her right now, but she has only done 5 races. So these other riders are around 16, 17 for the likes of Brand. So you're not in that race zone yet, even after 5 races, even when you are as quality a rider as Peters is. But today she is showing that she can stay away a lot longer than she has in any other races so far. Basel, she was good, but she just wasn't quite Van Empel.
No, and that will come with each race that you do and each race distance that you do, that will come. It almost seems here, that if you agree, Fem Van Empel looks like she's starting to dial into this race now. It looked like she was just, the sort of judgment was a little bit off at the beginning of this race.
Sometimes you take a few moments to get into the race. Sometimes if you aren't quite, you might be completely there at the beginning, but then something puts you off your line, and this does require a lot of mental thought processes the whole time. Where you're going to get off, how are you going to get to that rut? You need to get to where we're seeing here Manon Bakker using the railing to push herself up these hills. You've got to get to that line still on your bike. Well, how do you do that? But also, if you make a mistake, when are you going to jump off? And usually we talk about how much you're thinking about in these cross races, but in sand you have to think even more, because stuff is constantly changing, and we still haven't seen her do this next descent that they're going to come into in a second perfectly. But one lap she did it well, but she still hasn't done it as well as Peters has at the front of the race.
Pop Petersen, you can see here, has got that length of that dune almost at the moment. Can she get herself out of sight, out of mind? Around that corner, we get the long view here of Fem Van Empel. as we always say, trying to surf that sand. But look at the line there of Inge van der Heijden as Fem van Empel comes to a halt. And as we say constantly in Koksijde, you can just lose 5 seconds, 10 seconds easily on this course just by coming to a halt at the wrong moment. Puk Pedersen, though, is throwing the power and the speed down at every opportunity. We'll get a little replay here as we go into this. June just gets kicked across into the barrier there. That's the first mistake that we've seen there of Puk.
And here, Van Heijden hasn't got her feet in. And that is where part of the problem comes when you then come up to this next bank. And you can see that Van Empel's able to come up to her again and almost get around her. And that's the big problem in sand. When you're running in the sand, all that sand is getting into your shoe cleats and getting your feet in quickly. Quite often you'll see the riders in muddy races bang their feet before they get their feet in. And whereas in sand, you don't have that option because you need your feet in for those descents so you control this bike that's going everywhere.
You can see how windy it is as well. The grass and the trees in the background just getting buffeted. 5 degrees Celsius, it's 41 degrees Fahrenheit today. It is a sunny day, but 16 km/h winds, dropping to about 13 as the afternoon goes on, but gusts of 26 to 27 km/h. We have got an absolute thriller of a race here. Puk Pedersen grabs a gel as she goes through the line at the end of lap 3. The Phoenix de Koning rider driving on here in Koksijde. As he said, this is it fair to say, Helen, this is the Paris-Roubaix of cyclocross? It's so important. It has such prestige and magic around it. To win this is a massive, massive result for any rider.
Absolutely, absolutely. When it was the World Championships here in 2012, they had 60,000 spectators, and it was really insane to fit that many people in such a small place. And then they helicoptered in the King to do the prize presentation, and it was just the noise. You couldn't move anywhere. Like they said, there was something like they ran out of the toilets filled up or something. And it was just absolutely crazy, and that's how important Koksijde is to Belgium. And it's so important that they name a dune after a winner if they are Belgian.
And we've got a dune that hasn't been named yet, and it's this one. And I think the next dune, we've got the Hedegaard's dune, we've got the Albert dune. I think the next one's got to be named after one of our women.
It has to be a Belgian, though. So then a Belgian woman has to win.
Or maybe they'll just give it to Sanne Cant here because she's won this race so many times. I think at the end of her career, I think that would be a fitting honour.
It would. For a woman that's done so much for the sport of cyclocross for women as well, I think, and having taken it all on her shoulders from such a young age, I think, she deserves to have the dune named after her in Koksijde.
So Sanne Cant, Manon Bakker going through ahead of Marta Troyen and Julie Brouwers. Couple of Belgians that are going to be battling for that national title as well. Marta Troyen, former podium rider in the Paris-Roubaix as well. Another rider for Phoenix de Koning that jumps between disciplines. That descent there, you can see. We just cut back here to Denise Betsema, former winner of this race. And just in 2019, just going through.
The reason why you actually want both your feet in on that tricky descent is because it's steep, but the lines are kicking you from side to side. And if you've only got one foot in, you're resting a lot of your weight on the saddle. And in sand, you need to very slightly hover over the saddle, and you can't do that if you've only got one foot in.
It's worth pointing out as well, if you watch the riders in the sand, the cross rider hover is something that you've got to sort of subtly look for. So if you're looking, if you're a rider or you want to get into cross, it's the little hover that you do just above the seat, which is also when riders transfer from discipline to discipline. It's also another part of the cross riders' power and their boxer tricks. Because you're almost squatting above the seat, aren't you?
For descending, it's so important. And when you're actually riding in the sand, you're putting all your weight. When you're driving up the hills and things, you're putting all your weight on the saddle. But it's when, like we're talking about that descent there, and you can even see here actually a little bit for if the bike starts to skip, you have to let the bike move. So you see a tiny gap between Inge van der Heijden's bottom, I guess. So we're telling people to look at people's bums. You can see a small gap between the saddle and where they sit, and so that little bit of air is the way that you control your bike when it's bouncing around in front of you, as we see Van Empel come to the front of the race now.
Puk Pedersen, you can see here now, is just driving in and out of every turn, every section of this course as Pedersen hunts for that first victory of the winter. The battle behind for second and third on the podium between Fem van Empel, last year's winner, last year's runner-up in Lucinda Brand, as Fem just at the, you can see just that how steep that bridge is and how much she's just having to, she's taking a micro rest, but also just setting up, having to slow down into that corner.
Because then again you go on to hard pack sand, but it still moves just as sand does, and there are ruts in there too. There's sections which look innocuous, but when you're there on the course you can see that they're actually pretty deep ruts. As Peter's pedaling down that descent, when you pedal in sand you are also driving the bike in the right direction, so when you're able to pedal on a descent like that, you will try, because it keeps the bike moving and it keeps your weight over the back when, and it keeps that bike almost going in the direction that you want it to go in, even though you have absolutely no control, really.
Not at all. The Phoenix de Koenig. And what is important in Puk Pedersen's career is how much the Roodhoff brothers are managing her program, because it's a fine line, isn't it? Puk can't race the whole XCO season, the Tour de France Fam, and a full cross season. It has to be managed so carefully.
Yeah, and she's still a young rider, isn't she? She's only 23, 24, 22. She's only 22 years old, so it is important that you protect the young riders and you keep them in the sport for as long as possible. And we've seen it many times in the past. I mean, Marianne Vos did everything, didn't she, for a really long time, and then she had to take nearly 2 years out for fatigue and things, and you don't want that to happen. You want a long racing career. You look at the likes of Kant, who has been a pure cross rider. She's dipped into the road, and when she does, she's incredibly good. She was at the Road World Championships in Glasgow to support the Belgian national team when Lotte Kopecky won the road race there. So, you know, she's a decent road rider, but at the same time, she's had a career lasting 18 years. So, you know, we were talking this morning before we went on air about the 2006 Calmtout, where she got 7th in her first World Cup at 16 years of age. So, you know, you want that. And she's been under the care of the Rudolph brothers her entire career.
Because Inge van der Heijden, great start for Inge today. She was with Puk Pedersen early on. If you've been with us, if you weren't with us early on in the race, Puk, when you listened, I was listening, as I said, to that, talking through this course on her preview video, how much she was going to stay on that outside chainring, how much power, where she needed to, where she was planning, and how she was planning her ride, which is always interesting when a rider puts that out before the race as well, and then comes into this. She was talking through what she was doing and where she was going to do things, which, you know, in some ways you would think riders would be like, I'm going to protect how I'm going to ride this one, but I suppose every rider's different, and you all as well, in a lot of ways, have a different approach to how you take things. You, as riders always say, you have to ride your own race.
You have to ride your own race. You only have a certain number of power to do a certain number of things, and you know what your talents are and what your physical attributes are that will help you in each race. So I wouldn't say that Peters, Van Empel and Brand have matching attributes, and so I don't think it's a disadvantage to say what gear you're going to use, because Brand would not be using the same gear as Peters in the same places.
Swift dismount there from Puk Pedersen. You can see the leg speed increasing as well. It's almost like she's measured her running, where we go back to where she was running against Inge van der Heijden early on. Sanne Kant giving us a great display in the sand, has to dismount. Manon Bakker behind her, having another strong day. Lucinda Brand starts to go for the turn and burn. The late power from Lucinda Brand manages to ride that just a few pedal revs more than Fem van Empel. And that's interesting when we go back to Baarle, where Van Empel was able to ride just that little bit further than Lucinda Brand throughout the through some of the climbs in Baarle. Puk Pedersen is still holding this gap. It is coming back, it looks like, because where Puk is now, a pre-lap ago, they were a little bit further up the dune than they are now.
It does look like that to me as well, but it looks like Brand is really making a concerted effort here, and this is her attack zone. And this dune is such an important dune in the race when you're coming into the finish. We've seen in the past lots of examples, Alvarado winning it here in 2019, where she was able to ride where others weren't. We've seen plenty of people lose the race here, And Brand obviously knows that she's getting this tight line. You can see here it's really, really deep on the inside and slightly cambered, and she's able to get that line perfectly. And because she can, and Van Empel isn't riding at quite as much speed, Van Empel then has to close the gap every time, and it's so tough to keep closing the gap in these conditions when the sand is already so draining.
Sanne Cant and Manon Bakker locked in their own private battle behind the battle at the front between Puk Pieterse and the chasers of Lucinda Brand, who's managed to open a gap now over the world champ Fem Van Empel. Considerable margin now here, but again, in cross terms, as Van Empel just has to dab that foot, it's onto the road for Puk Pieterse. Just settles down here on the road, powers through, or power through the start-finish line.
Does she have the time gap with 1 lap to go? I think she probably does. I think it looked like Brand's a lot closer to her than that. That's a long finish straight, and I do think potentially she has that time gap still. It's going to be a little bit less. It's going to be around 20 seconds, but whereas she had 25 before, but I still think Pieters is completely under control.
Lucinda Brand goes through. 20 seconds is the gap from Puk Pieterse to Lucinda Brand. You've then got Fem Van Empel in 3rd spot. Puk Pieterse driving on at the head of the race. That welcome sound of the bell. Inge van der Heide, really solid race today from the Creelan Corendon rider. Can she close anything back up to those riders ahead of her? Lucinda Brand is hunting down Puk Pieterse, as she always does at the end of these races. When we look at the talent of Lucinda Brand, it's those fast finishes, the way she is able to do the final couple of laps of these cross races at warp speed. And Puk Pieterse will know that she is still under pressure, even with 20 seconds, as the crowd roar her on the run-up.
And it's the effort, isn't it? I mean, look how close it looks like she's coming to her, and Pieters will be able to hear the noise behind. And Brand is riding really technically good today in the sand, so it's not like Pieters can take it easy at any point, as we see Cant and Bakker come through the line here for a lap to go.
1 minute 27 back to Sanne Cant and Manon Bakker. Those are your chasers. Lucinda Brand. Brand surfs that section of June perfectly. Fem Van Empel, you can see the shoulders, the upper body going left and right as she just tries to manage that bike, keep it going in a straight direction, going through 7th and 8th. This is a really solid ride today. This is a great ride from the young Belgian Julie Brouwers with Martha Troyen of Phoenix de Koning. Julie Brouwers, another rider that is just growing in stature as well, race after race. Another 22-year-old rider.
I do think that Pieters still has a lot left in her, though, because she's getting out of the saddle on these super fast sections and bringing her speed back up after the corners, and she's keeping that speed as she goes into the sand. You can see how fast you have to approach the sand. You see how deep those ruts are that she's in, and she's still controlling the bike. The bike's moving all over the place. She's still able to control it. She's lifting her weight where she needs to. She's driving it forward where she needs to, and making it all the way to this corner still. So I do think she's still riding strong, and her descending is really smooth compared to Brandon Van Empel.
What is key here is going to be how far Lucinda Brand gets through, but also the running strength that we know here of Lucinda Brand. That's where her talents is gonna come into play. I would say she's got the edge on Puk in terms of the running.
I think she probably has, yeah. I think Puk has the advantage on these next sections. So this section where she jumps on, she drives it forwards, but we see Brand has gone sideways here before. She freewheels a little bit, but Pieters drives the whole way, and she's already over the top and disappeared again. So I think she's probably got enough at this point, and as long as she can get into that last June with a 10-second gap, I think she'll be able to win for sure.
Fem Van Empel in 3rd spot. What a thriller of a race. It's been a great addition already. We've still got half a lap to go.
Yeah, and I feel like if Brandon had a better start, she probably would have been up there with Pieters at this point. But then she got in a bit of a battle with Van Empel, which probably actually kept her around that 23, 24 second mark for those couple of laps. mean, she did drop down to 30 seconds at one point, and she closed 10 on the last lap, but I just think it's too big a gap because Peters is so smooth on these descents, and she's so smooth on sections like this where she just goes around the corner. She's already looking to where she's going next. She's in the right gear. She approaches it fast. She's off. It's like super smooth. She might not get to the top of the hill. She might not get as far as Brand does, but she's really, really consistent in the way that she's doing things, and that makes it easier on her brain and likely to make less mistakes.
Lucinda Brand, 12 times second so far this season. So this at the moment, sitting in second, this would be the 13th time she's finished second this year. 5 victories, 4 times third. But what's impressive as well about Lucinda Brand is Fem van Empel almost gets to the top of that dune there. Impressive riding from the world champ. For Lucinda Brand, she's not been off the podium yet this season.
No, it's really, really impressive. And
apologies, don't panic, folks. just a momentarily there for the green screen for the director. Don't panic.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Her consistency this year for sure, and her wins as well. Her win rate is reasonably high, and she always takes the opportunity when the likes of Van Empel isn't in the race. But yeah, I think she would have. I mean, I think we saw she was a bit disappointed with her result in Basel, where she came in second in that sprint, because she knew she was. It's always really disappointing when there's something that you could have done better in the race to mean that Van Empel wouldn't come back to her. But she's really going for it today to try and win and to try and get Peters back, although it might be too late.
Fem van Empel, 9 wins so far this year from 14 starts. Put Petersen hunting for her first win of the winter. She's ridden this line superbly well throughout this race so far. You can just see that little groove, that hard-packed groove from that shot from the back there. That's what you're hunting for. Yeah,
and in sand you have to look further than you normally would, because if you look down, you can't fall out of that line. So Brand has to look up, and she has to look to where Peters is, basically. That's how far you have to look in sand compared to normal conditions. And it's because if you're looking a bit closer to the ground, your bike doesn't really do what it's supposed to do, and that line is so tiny to stay in that it's really, really, really tricky.
Lucinda Brand, twice the winner of the X20 Barkamas Trophy, the Soudal Ladies Trophy. 2 years running, 2021, 21, 22. Fem van Empel, the winner of the X20 for the last couple of seasons overall. As Fem van Empel goes through the line, so between first and second going into today, 9 minutes and 44 seconds. So in terms of GC and the season-long competition, Lucinda Brand looking strong, but Pop Petersen still driving on here at the front. So hasn't finished lower than 5th so far this season, but that all-important first win, super important for the confidence of any rider. It's just going to come down now to these last couple of dunes. Lucinda Brand always finishing at lightning quick speed.
Yeah, she's trying to ride that few more meters than the riders around her, because not only will it bring her slightly closer to the likes of Peters at the front of the race, but it'll also gap her away from Van Empel. And she has the confidence at this section she's better than Van Empel. The last lap they came out in this corner together, but her line is a harder line which requires less energy, and I don't think she's going to get Peters at this rate. She just has to now focus on staying away from Van Empel and taking second.
That point on the course is a good marker, because the previous lap they were almost in the same position, so Puk is holding that gap really well there.
Yeah, you could see there that Puk going down this descent, it's a tricky descent, but the line was kicking her out, and she had to lose a little bit of momentum just so that she could stay in that tight line on the left-hand side as they're going, and because that's the only way that you're going to get over the little mound in the correct place.
Inge van der Heide still in 4th place. Puk Petersen is looking to just string together the final sections of this course here in Koksijde. What a day it has been. One of the biggest classics on the cyclocross calendar, this race here. And Puk driving on through the wind. This has been an impressive day so far for her.
She's done great today. She led pretty much from the start with Inge van der Heiden, and then she was able to dispatch her on around the 2nd, 3rd lap and just stay ahead, which is what she's been trying to do all season.
You gotta say, perfect Puck today. Puck Pedersen gets her first win of the winter and adds her name to an incredible roll call of honour here in Koksijde. Takes, you would say, the Paris-Roubaix of cross and does it in an incredible manner. That was a Puck Pedersen performance that we will remember here in Koksijde. And behind her, Lucinda Brand has to settle for second place for the 13th time this season. Another impressive ride from the Baloise Glowy Lions rider, the Dutch champion, but Puck gets the win.
Yeah, and her lap times are so consistent.
Fen van Empel comes home for third spot. Winner last year, and then we just see Inge van der Heide just coming round that final corner. You can see the flags all blowing here. It shows just how tough it has been today. Congratulatory hug from Lucinda Brand to Puck Pedersen. Another impressive day out for Kralin Corendon's Inge van der Heide.
Yeah, brilliant day for Inge. She really put herself out there, didn't she? She really wanted to try and take the race on and see who could stay with her, and she put everything in and ended up fourth in the end, but it's better to have tried than not to have tried at all.
Definitely. Sanne Cant, a big ride today from the twice winner here in Koksijde, winning it in 2015 and 2016 seasons. The Belgian champion in her final year as a pro into the start-finish straight. And behind her, Manon Bakker will be in 6th place. This is an impressive ride from Sanne today as well. She's finishing her career strongly.
Yeah, she was 5th here last year. She's 5th here today. She was 4th in Mol, 9th in Zonhoven. We know how good she is in sand, and that's technique. It's not just strength, that really is technique putting her into that place today.
Julie Brouwers, this is one of the rides of her career for me today.
Yeah, and another front row start. We saw her on the front row at Lunau as well, and she really took advantage of that. When you can get the gridding in cross is based on your world ranking, but it's really tough. The way that you ride from the front row is very different to the way that you would ride even from the second row, and particularly from the third row. So when everybody in that ahead of you is there in the race and you're third row, the way that you can start is much different. You can't always get to the front. You don't always have clear lines to ride. And as soon as Julie Brouwers gets on that front row, she really, really takes advantage of that. And that's really good to see, because that will be moving her up the world ranking too.
Yeah, 5th in Mol, 5th in Loenhout. So really, really consistent performances. And then you take it up a level in severity of the course here in Koksijde. Denise Betsema coming through. So still in the top 10, 9th place today, behind Martha Throin. Another really good performance today from the Belgian Martha Throin there in 8th. Denise Betsema still in that top 10 here.
Yeah. We haven't really mentioned her much this season, have we? We haven't really seen her at the front of the race at all, really. So, again, she likes sand. She enjoys this race.
Laura's fans, Laura Verdonschot coming through. It's going to be 10th place today. Just struggling a little bit to find that consistency this season.
She really is, and it's a shame. I mean, if you want to watch the most incredible sand battle I've watched in a women's race, was the Belgian National Championships on the coast, Ostende. Can't remember the year, maybe 2016-ish. And the battle between her and Kant, she was only just turned 18 at the time, and it was insane. I've never seen such skills from women in the sand as I saw on those two that day. And so, yeah, Verdonschot's good here, but she just...
Puck Pedersen, proficiat met jouw allereerste veldritoverwinning van het seizoen. Meteen de drank erbij. Zo hoort dat natuurlijk. Hoe gelukkig ben je hiermee?
Ja, super blij natuurlijk. Het heeft even op zich mogen laten wachten tot ik weer won. Maar ja, ik had vandaag gewoon goed gevoel op de fiets. Een keer geen grote fouten gemaakt. Ik denk wel hier cruciaal is.
Werd je er ongeduldig van? Drink maar eerst ondertussen, want dat is belangrijk voor jullie om snel te kunnen recupereren. Werd je er ongeduldig van, jij als winnaar, dat je nog niet had gewonnen dit seizoen?
Ja, ik kan daar eigenlijk niet zo goed tegen natuurlijk. Ik weet dat het ook om het gevoel in de wedstrijd gaat en dat was wel per wedstrijd beter. Dus ik heb daar gewoon vanuit proberen te gaan en het
very
vertrouwen
difficult
proberen te
for
houden.
me to race 5 times and not win.
Die zagen natuurlijk ook
Tried
dat
to
ik
gain
week bij week
confidence in my
dichterbij
races.
kwam. En ja, heel blij dat het er dan uitkomt.
Op een gegeven moment, je kan je eigenlijk drinken, op een gegeven moment had ze een halve minuut. Dan kwam in de laatste ronde Brand nog terug tot 16 seconden. Wist je dat ze aan het naderen was en had je altijd controle?
And then Brand was there at 20 seconds in the last lap.
Ik had eigenlijk al een doemscenario zoals Baal in mijn hoofd.
Echt?
Waar Lucinda natuurlijk in de laatste ronde nog een gat verloor.
A few days ago.
Dus ik wist dat het niet gedaan was. Maar
when they came back.
De tweede keer over de
lost there against Van Empel.
Van 15 seconden wel heel veel is om dan nog
te dichten. The second time on head against June.
Hoe belangrijk is dit voor jou, Puk, met het oog op het WK, waar je absoluut top wil zijn?
How important is this for the World Championship?
Dit mee te kunnen nemen, ook naar het NK
Very
toe.
good.
En dan kijken hoe het gaat.
Also for the national
is
championships.
This first win of the season for you?
Yeah, of course. It's really nice to win here, in especially such a big course, big race as Koksijde. Yeah, it's sand is normally not the thing that I'm good at, but today I could go really smooth through all the sand dunes, and yeah, that helped a lot, of course, by keeping the momentum.
And you're ready for the championships?
Yeah, I think so. I'm getting better and better each week. So I hope to continue this form and take it first to nationals, training camp, and then to worlds, of course.
Congrats. Thank you, Puk.
Yeah, it's always good to see her winning, isn't it? I mean, we love her style. She's got flair. You can see she buried herself. You can see that she really put everything in order to get to that finish line to win the race. And she had in her mind while they came back in Baal, and she could hear Brand getting closer, but she had enough time, she'd put in enough effort, and she was able to hold on for the win.
I think it's fair to say sand could now be her thing. You can add that to your skills.
Yeah, I mean, you said that she's been working on her sand skills, and she clearly has. And I mean, her ability to ride a bike is incredible. The way that she understands how the bike moves is incredible. So I think she's got a little lucky charm on her saddle there. And so